Hi everyone, my name is Micah, and today I'm going to be talking about the body rituals among the Nasarama by Horace Snyder. And later on, I'm going to be also connecting it to the civil rights movement of from the 1950s to the 1960s and tying it together. But firstly, I wanted to talk about the essay in itself. It's very over exaggerated, very satire. It is a unique way of writing. It took me through a roller coaster of emotions. It didn't take me long to realize that he was talking about the American culture. Its purpose was to shed a light on how others might perceive our culture practices, like brushing your teeth, our American healthcare system, going to the hospital or going to the dentist, how it could be strange or weird to anybody outside of the United States. And to me, it highlights how important it is to keep an open mind when looking into a different culture or visiting a different country, because to us it might seem weird, but it's their way of living. But I think that's because we're so deeply embedded in our own way of living that we think that their way of living is wrong or weird. The civil rights movement influenced the U.S. cultural worldview because it challenged the entrenched norms of living in the United States as an African American, and it called for a more inclusive and just society. And in particular, it reshaped our cultural attitudes about race and about justice. Life as an African American before the civil rights movement was marked by systemic discrimination, segregation, and racism. Some key aspects as to what it was like living in the United States as an African American during this time period consist of segregation, in particular the segregation law that is known as the Jim Crow laws, that was mandated to separate facilities for African Americans and white folks, in schools, restaurants, theaters, transportation. And as a result of this, it limited educational opportunities that were provided for African American children in comparison to those provided for white children. African American schools were underfunded, overcrowded. It had limited resources, and this affected the generations coming up for these families. And not to mention the discrimination for employees, the low paying, they were low paid and they did not have opportunities for advancement in those companies that they were working with, as well as housing discrimination that it made it harder for African Americans to build wealth through home ownership, as well as stereotypes, as well as violence and the lynching that were happening during this time period. And it was because of this, the violence that were happening, it inflicted fear in the African American communities. Not to mention that they had limited resources for legal representation. And as a result, for these actions, the civil rights movement was emerged, and it was to dismantle racial segregation and secure equal rights. The 1980s and the 1990s saw an expansion of the civil rights movement through women and through the LGBTQ plus community, as well as people with disabilities. And this is very important because it aimed to ensure equality, justice, to protect all rights for all individuals, irregardless of their gender and sexual orientation and their abilities. Civil rights movement's enduring legacy continued to shape discussions in civil rights, social justice, and equality in today's day and age. It continues to evolve. An example of that is the Black Lives Movement that was founded in 2013, that is focused more on recent issues, like police violence and racial inequality, and it continues to promote equality in the United States. The right movement is detrimental to the U.S. culture because it is a part of our history, and learning our history can provide us a valuable insight into the past. We can learn from our past mistakes, and we can see how our society have evolved from that time period to this day and age, and we can make informed decisions for the future, based on what has happened. Martin Luther King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Thank you.